All right, so we're going to do a review on finding the square roots of non-perfect squares. As we reviewed yesterday, if we're looking for the square root of a perfect square, let's say the square root of 25, well, 25 is equal to 5 times 5, so the square root of 25 is equal to 5. But we're not going to always deal with these lovely perfect squares, so we need to know what to do if we come up with something that is not a perfect square, such as the square root of 45. If you look at your list of perfect squares, no two whole numbers will multiply by each other to give you 45. So you're not going to, so that isn't a perfect square, and you're not going to just find that on your chart by multiplying two whole numbers. So instead, what we have to do is we have to start by thinking about, well, that number inside, since it's not a perfect square, well, it's between what two perfect squares? So what we're going to think about is that 45 is between what perfect square is right lower than it and what perfect square is right above it, if this was on our table. So we're going to look at our handy-dandy little table, and we're going to find out that, well, where 45 would go, that's between 36 and 49. These two numbers are perfect squares that are sandwiched right on the opposite sides of where 45 would go. So that means that the square root of 45, if 45 is between 36 and 49, then the square root of 45 must be between the square root of 36 and the square root of 49. That's just the number line going from least to greatest. Well, the square root of 45 then must be greater than, well, what's the square root of 36? 6. And it must be less than, what's the square root of 49? 7. So the square root of 45 must fall somewhere between 6 and 7. So it must be some 6-point something number that falls between 6 and 7. The question is 6 point what? So now we're going to look back up and we're going to think about the distance between 36 and 45 and the distance between 45 and 49. 45 is 9 away from 36 and it is 4 away from 49. So where's it going to be closer? It's going to be closer to 49 than 36. So we can use that to kind of estimate, well, if it's closer to 49 than 36, then it must be closer to 7 than 6. So maybe it's 6.7. That seems pretty close. It's somewhere in the middle, but it's closer to 7 than 6. Well, how am I going to know whether or not that's really it? That's right, I'm going to have to do the math. I'm going to have to take scratch paper, and I'm going to have to see, well, 6.7, if I squared that, if I multiplied it by itself, what would I end up with? Well, I'd end up with 44.89. Is that really, really close to 45? Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get any closer. So I'm going to say, yep, the square root of 45 is about, I use the wavy equal sign, is about 6.7. Let's do another one together. So now I'm going to estimate the square root of 90. So again, I'm going to start with what I'm finding the square root of, that number 90, and I'm going to say, well, what perfect square is less than it, and what perfect square is more than it? So that number is between what two perfect squares? Well, 81 is a perfect square less than 90, and 100 is a perfect square greater than 90. So that means that the square root of 90 must be between the square root of 81 and the square root of 100. So now all I have to do is think about, well, what is the square root of 81 and what is the square root of 100? And the square root of 90 must fall between those. Square root of 81 is 9, square root of 100 is 10, so the square root of 90 is somewhere between 9 and 10. That means it's 9 point something. That means it's 9 point something is going to go right there. So now I just need to think about distance. How far away from each of these are? Well, 90 is 9 away from 81, and it's 10 away from 100. So logic would say that it should be 9.4, 9.5. I went with 9.6, which was a mistake, because that would put it closer to 10 than 9. But remember, it's further away from 10 than 9. So I did all this math and I didn't have to do, and I said, well, 92 is really not close to 90 at all. I said, okay, well, let's go down one and let's do 9.5. If I multiply 9.5 by itself, I get 90.25. Yeah, that's really, really close to 90. I don't think I'm going to get any closer. So yeah, my answer is then 9.5. So square root of 90 is approximately 9.5. That's an estimate. Okay, so go ahead and pause. Try this one on your own. Estimate the square root of 33. Remember to think about 33 is between what two numbers? So the square root of 33 must be between what two square roots? Go ahead and pause and try it. All right, welcome back. So I had to think about, well, 33 is between 25 and 36, so that means the square root of 33 must be between these two square roots. So that means the square root of 33 must be between 5 and 6. The question is, it's 5 point something. 5 point what? How far away is 33 from these two numbers? And then I think about, well, it looks like it's closer to 36 than 25, so maybe it's 5.8. And then I checked it, either with my calculator or on scratch paper, and I said, no, it's not 5.8, it's 5.7. So the square root of 33 is approximately 5.7. Okay, see you in class.